So is the PlayStation VR2 already failing, or is it at least destined to fail? Apparently, certain analysts think that that might be the case, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about this new kind of article that just came out, as well as looking at some of the numbers with other PSVR, well, not PSVR, but other VR headsets, and just kind of trying to get a little bit of a fuller idea and a fuller look at this whole kind of scenario, if you will. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, PSVR2 is my first VR experience personally. I never experienced VR before that. I was really skeptical to pull the trigger because, yeah, I seen the price and it was pretty pricey. And I do want to talk about the price. I think we'll kind of hone in a little bit heavier on the price, maybe in a different video, but I will touch on that because the price is a big thing, right? It's a good chunk. It's pretty much the same price as a PS5. There's the fact that the PS5, you know, it's basically tethered to the PS5, and you can't really do anything beyond that. You can't hook it up to your PC or anything like that, which is, again, all different topics I would love to dive even deeper into. But we're talking about just the success and the potential success of the PSVR2. When it was announced, one of the biggest concerns I had was that it was going to be like a PS Vita situation where, you know, the whole ecosystem was, you know, the idea behind it was really good, and just the ideas and the technology was really, really good. But if it wasn't supported properly, if it didn't have enough of a you know, player base, then it was bound to flop. And that was a big reason I was super iffy on whether I should buy one myself or not, because again, it is a big investment. I figured since, you know, I do a lot of content creation here on the channel, I would create a bunch of content with PSVR2 alongside all of the other gaming content that we do here on the channel. And, you know, I hoped that it would at least, you know, for a content creation perspective, that I would at least get a return on investment, right? Where what I spend in this thing, that through creating content, I would at least get a little bit of a return back. It's a very steep price, man. And a lot of people are wondering, well, is it too pricey? You got to realize that there's some pretty crazy technology in here, right? You got an OLED, you got not an OLED, you got OLED lenses. They're 4K. Now, obviously, it's not going to look like a 4K TV, but still 4K lenses in terms of the resolution. They got the eye tracking, you know, you got the pass through where you can see your surroundings and whatnot. You got the haptics, you got the adaptive triggers. There's haptics even in the headset. It's very comfortable, by the way. The headset is very, very comfortable in and of itself. And yeah, it's not wireless, but, you know, it's tethered to the PS5. It's, you know, one cable, which is, you know, pretty good. The batteries are not the greatest on the controllers, but still, you know, 5 to 7-ish hours depending, and you're good to go. You know, just charge them in between each play session. I don't know. I mean, you know, overall, I think the features there, it's a pretty good bang for your buck, especially when you compare it to the price of other VR units that are kind of in a similar ballpark and whatnot. You'd probably spend more. You'd probably be spending like $1,500 or something like that for a different one. Now, what does the article say? Well, I can only get snippets of the article, unfortunately, because it's Bloomberg. You need a subscription, and I don't have one. But first, I'll throw this up on screen. You can see from Takashi. I don't know how to say their last name. I apologize. But they tweeted saying that Sony's PSVR2 is not doing well. IDC's and this other person that they tagged, Francisco Geronimo, I guess is the last name, expects sales of just 270,000 units by the end of March. Now, that's going to be, of course, within the first month of launch, right? And saying that they suspect a price cut on the PSVR2 will be needed to avoid a complete disaster. If you actually go to this person's tweet directly, I'll throw theirs up on screen, the person that actually wrote this article, where they said, they quoted, consumers around the world are facing rising costs of living, rising interest rates, and rising layoffs, and that VR headsets are not top of the mind for most consumers under the current economic climate, which that's a great point. That is a very good point, right? Everything's like inflation's up, you know, pricing for living is crazy up. And then you got the super expensive VR headset, which again, you know, you got to understand, like for the technology, it's I think it's fairly priced, but the problem is that most people's value is going to be different, right? Especially judging on the economic situations that, you know, and economic climate, I guess you would say, right? And so that's the big problem right there, right? Is sure, for the tech, it's fairly priced, but for the value of the average consumer, it's very expensive. And so it's kind of like this trade-off where it's like Sony's like, well, you know, obviously there's only so much money they can lose on hardware. How much money do they really, you know, lose off of this thing. I don't even know if what that whole thing is. I just know typically hardware, you take a little bit of a loss. I don't know the numbers for the PSVR2. Now, here's what I'll say. 270K in the first month sounds pretty solid. Like, it's not going to do PS5 numbers. It's not going to sell like, 1 million or 5 million or 10 million in the first month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. VR is niche as it is. Excuse me, but I say like 270K for that is pretty good. Apparently, I don't know for sure, but apparently I'm hearing that PSVR1 sold only 100K units in the same period. So if that's true, excuse me, if that's true, then it's already doing almost triple the performance that the VR1 did, which from Sony's perspective, right, they've seen how the PSVR1 performed and they still decided to pull the trigger on the PSVR2. From Sony's perspective, I think that's pretty good. When you're comparing it to the previous thing. Now, the other thing is a lot of people are like, I've seen a lot of people say, it's the pricing. They need to see a price cut. So if Sony was to put this thing on sale or, cut the price, I don't think they'll do so soon, because if they did that, it'd be kind of like a slap in the face for, everyone who bought it day one. People would be really mad. So they're not going to do that anytime soon. Maybe sales, Black Friday, in a few months, kind of later on this year, excuse me, I guess more than a few months, maybe like 6, 7, 8 months. I don't know how far October is, but whatever. You get what I'm saying. Maybe in a few months it goes on sale or something like that. A little bit of like maybe like $50 off, $100 off. That gives it's a little bit soften the blow a little bit, right? Maybe some people are like, oh, okay, there's more games now, whatever. We just got The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 1 and 2 that released on it, which looks better than ever. It's like the best version of that game that you can play across any VR headset, from what I can gather. I've had a lot of fun with Chapter 1 so far. I've yet to jump into Chapter 2. I mean, you got some rhythm games that are a lot of fun so far. You got Drums Rock, you got Beat Saber that is going to be coming. It's announced, but we don't know when. We got some, first party stuff. You got Horizon, Call of the Mountain. It's not like the craziest game ever, I'll be honest, but if Sony can commit to producing more, AAA big title games, I think that is the big thing. If you can make sure you get devs on board, especially their first party ones, I think that can really push us forward. Because think about this. The Last of Us VR, how many people would buy a PSVR2 just for that? The Last of Us is huge, especially now with the whole HBO series. I think if they could pull off some kind of, iteration, even if it's a spin-off, maybe you cross paths with Joel and Ellie somehow in this story. It's like a kind of side story, whatever it is. If they could pull off a PSVR2, Last of Us, that'd be huge. The other big game that I've been super hardcore adamant about is Spider-Man. I mean, it's perfect. It is the first-person Spider-Man. You have the adaptive triggers. The whole thing with the VR is perfect for Spider-Man, right? You got, you're shooting the webs. Oh, you push the trigger. It makes sense. It makes complete sense. You got the L1 and the R1 in the middle, which would feel like you're kind of doing that, right? Like Spider-Man. And if they can get, a Spider-Man VR for the PSVR2, huge. Absolutely massive. That will sell units like crazy. The other thing is some of their other games, right? Uncharted would be so fun in VR. I mean, the whole thing is climbing and swinging off of things and combat with firearms, right? Which, again, some of the most fun that you have in VR is, with first-person shooters, because it feels like you're actually more engaging with it, right? It's like you gotta, eject the mag, you gotta grab a mag, put a new one in, you gotta rack the slide. Maybe your gun jams at some point, you gotta, again, rack the slide to fix it. Different things like that. I mean, Uncharted would be great. There's so many. Think about it. You could take any first party title that Sony owns, and most of them would be like huge on the PSVR 2. So if Sony commits fully, and it seems like they are already all in, they're really going hard with this one, and I really hope they don't drop the ball and they don't, start kind of slacking. Oh, the numbers aren't great. Maybe we should just kind of stop supporting it. If they don't do what they did to the Vita and the PSVR 1 technically too, in a way, if they don't do that, I think this thing, they can push it beyond anything else. And also, if they add like PC support at any point, because there are PC games, with PlayStation. I mean, I don't think they would do that because that might take away, from some of their sales, right? Because obviously certain games that are on both. But then again, some of the games are better to play. Like I said, The Walking Dead, it's best to play on PSVR2 on the PS5. So if they could if they would support the PC, add drivers, I think that would also help them. I think maybe they'll do that in the future. Maybe not. Maybe they'll never do it at all. Anyways, I'm ranting, but I want to show one other thing that I thought is very interesting. Actually, first of all, let's talk about really quick PSVR sales. The first one, it launched in 2016, and by the end of 2019, so in 3 years, it sold about 5 million units in just over 3 years. So it was pretty decent. 5 million units in 3 years. I mean, it seems like we're on a good pace for this. Apparently, the PSVR in its entirety sold 5 million, which is apparently, from what I'm seeing, I think the second most highest selling VR, headset. So 5 million, again, when you compare it to like PS5 sales, it's not great, sure. But when you compare to the fact that it's niche, 5 million is pretty good. I would say it's really good. I found this infograph on this website called VR.space. I don't know how accurate it is, but basically, they show some like charts of different units and different things like that. And so apparently, like the Oculus Quest 2 sold 10 million roughly, the PSVR sold 5, the HTC Vive sold 1.3 million, Oculus Rift sold 1.5, Oculus Go 2, Oculus Quest 1.1, different things like that. So I don't know, in terms of like the other popular VR headsets, it's in that ballpark. I mean, Oculus sold double of what the PSVR did, but you gotta again take into consideration, right? VR is still niche, and I think those are still pretty good numbers, 5 million. So I mean, if Sony is able to sell double to triple that number, and they're already on track, it seems like, to do that, then I mean, that's pretty good from where I'm sitting. You also got to keep in mind the Oculus Quest. All the Quest headsets, they sold about 20 million in total, but that includes Quest 1, Quest 2, and Quest Pro combined, which again, Quest 2 seems to have sold at least half of those numbers. So again, I mean, comparing to other VR units, I think the PSVR2 can do great things. I think it's on track to do great things. I think they would just need to soften the price a little bit. Even $50 would help someone be like, okay, I'm saving $50 plus tax, that helps. $100, I think that's like, if you can cut it by $100, people are probably all in. If you can add a ton more support, like I said, first party, huge games, Spider-Man, Uncharted, Last of Us, things like that would be massive on this thing. And a lot of people want, some other games like Half-Life, but I don't know that we're gonna see that. Apparently it's owned by Valve, and why would Valve? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, but maybe not. But the point is, there's a lot of other games, and as of right now, I don't know if you guys know this, but right now on the PS Store, there's like, I think last time I counted, I think there's like 60 to 65 PSVR2 games as of right now. Sure, some of them are like smaller indie games, but some of those smaller indie games are a lot of fun. I played some of them, like What the Bat. It's just, it's just kind of like this crazy wonky game. It's a lot of fun. There's this other game that's super emotional, very short games, like 2 hours, but it's called what was it, Before Your Eyes, I think it was, where it has to do a lot with the blinking and the eye tracking. A lot of fun there. Switchback VR, I had a lot of fun with. There's some technical issues at launch, but they've been working on, kind of ironing those out. So besides that, I had a lot of fun with that. Kind of more in the horror genre. Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, I think is an amazing game. A lot of fun to be had there. Again, haven't played Chapter 2 yet, but Chapter 1's super phenomenal. Star Wars, Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. Again, it's not like Star Wars. It's not like Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen. What was it, Fallen Order, the first one? It's not like that level of Star Wars quality, but if you're a Star Wars fan, I think you absolutely love that game. I had a freaking blast with that game. And then, like I said, there's a bunch of rhythm games, right? You got, like I said, you got Drums Rock, Beat Saber is going to be coming. Don't know when. You do have some other really cool first-party games coming as well, like Firewall Ultra, which is like this tactical kind of shooter game, which I'm really excited about. Pavlov is huge. I didn't know this, but on PC, there's a bunch of like custom maps. People have actually recreated like Call of Duty zombie maps in this game, which is insane. So if they can bring that kind of sort of thing over somehow to, PS5 with the PSVR 2, I think that would also catapult it forward even further. But Pavlov is nuts, man. It's like super realistic. It's crazy. So there's a lot of great games right now. I was worried that I would only have maybe like 2 or 3 games, but there's a lot. Gran Turismo 7 is a lot of fun. If you already play that game, it's even better in VR. Might as well play it in VR, right? Resident Evil Village, even freakier, very well done in VR. Resident Evil 4 Remake just came out. They're working on the VR version of it, which is going to also be on PSVR2. So if you already own Resident Evil 4 Remake on your PS5, you're going to get that for free as an upgrade, most likely. I would assume. I don't know if they said that for sure, but I'm pretty sure because Resident Evil Village was like that. So that's going to be fun, right? To check out Resident Evil 4 Remake in VR. That's going to be crazy. So like I said, there's so many games already. There's already like 60, 65, and there's so many more to come. So I don't know. I'm hopeful. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, even a professional analyst, all they're doing is really guessing. It's just a guessing game, right? It's just, they're taking the numbers, they're trying to project things, they're trying to, kind of speculate and guess, based on what they've learned and known of the industry and the economics, climate and scenarios. And they're just trying to guess. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Have you bought a PSVR2? If not, what's holding you back? What would it take for you to buy a PSVR2? I will say this one thing. I am not trying to sell anybody anything. I didn't get my PSVR2 for free from Sony. I had to pay for it. I'm not trying to sell you guys anything. I get nothing out of this. But I will say, as someone who tried the VR for the first time, I can't compare it to any other ones, but I'll say this is a lot of fun. It's a great experience. Yeah, it's annoying that there's kind of like a little bit of a tight sweet spot. So you have some kind of clarity, but they seem to have widened that sweet spot. I don't know how in a recent update. So they are working on improving it even further. But as of right now, it's a great experience. Maybe I'm just biased because I'm like, whoa, this is new to me, this VR. But I mean, I've been playing it for a month now, and I'm still having the time of my life. And I'm still not through all the games that I want to play. So there's a lot of content to get through. So I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. This video was way longer than I thought it would be, but there's a lot to say on the topic. So let me know, what is holding you back from a PSVR2? What would it take for you to get one, or are you just not interested in VR? Let me know. Stick around for more, and I'll see you guys soon in another one. Till then, friends, game on. See you guys later.